Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. My name is John Francis, and I'm excited to present and introduce our first release of ETAP's AI Electric Copilot included in ETAP 2024. If you have not downloaded ETAP 2024, please log into your Help Desk account and download the latest release so you can take advantage of all the new solutions that improve efficiency and add additional value to the projects and services you provide, included with safety, compliance, reliability, resiliency, and sustainability. Speaking of efficiency, I get the pleasure to represent our engineering team who worked on creating this AI-powered electric copilot, including an integration with GPT to improve the overall experience of using ETAP for power system projects. During today's webinar, we're going to talk about why we created this electric copilot. What are the key features included in this release? And at the end, we might tell you beyond. The value proposition of having this ETAP copilot with you during your power system projects, how it's integrated and the seamless integration with GPT. We will do some sample use cases and demonstration in ETAP using ETAP Copilot directly. Today, many of us use GPT in work every day or part of our personal life. For many various reasons, GPT has been incorporated in our day-to-day activities. It helps us with so many items that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Ultimately, why are we using it? To save time, increase speed, and increase efficiency. Well, that is no different when doing a power system project. What brought us to this point? There's so many ways we can take this GPT and Copilot integration. Now, this is done in phases, but what's driving us here, what got us here in the short term? The first aspect is from queries to common language. Essentially, many of the queries that people use are using Python scripting today in ETAP. Well, instead of having to be a Python expert, let's just use queries. Let's use common language applications through our ETAP Copilot. Of course, the role of AI in transforming workflows. We're always trying to improve time. How does AI help us in terms of assessment and analysis? These projects are getting more and more complex, larger and larger, looking at large lists of results of equipment IDs, voltage levels, real power values, reactive power values, losses, gains, efficiencies. Having to do that analysis in massive tabular formats and manually visualizing and looking, that's all room for error. Now you can simply ask the question and get the result that you want to receive. It is a real-time intelligent assistant, extremely fast, intelligent, process large lists of information. All of the reasons that drew us to AI in the first place, we are going to take that, leverage that, and benefit that in a power systems world. I'm sure many of you listening to this are already evaluating where we're going, how this is happening, thinking of use cases. You're already working. I know it. This is the beauty of being with us here today. You're even thinking yourselves, if I'm using ETAP, where would I need AI to help? That's where we are. But in this webinar, in this release, this is phase 1. It is a beta release, but what's the main feature within phase 1? It's the ability to provide users with natural language search. So no more querying. We don't have to look at extensive reporting. We're providing the phase 1 initial ability to use natural language search to query and extract information. In the future, we will not be limited to a specific AI engine, but today with our first release, we're using GPT-4. So for clarity, you do need a GPT-4 license to utilize this feature, which we'll go over in more detail later in our presentation. But our vision is that Copilot will serve as your virtual assistant, offering valuable insights and guidance as you navigate through the simulation results. By leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms, Copilot analyzes the data to provide contextually relevant responses. This will help you make informed decisions and optimize your power system designs. So as we talked about, phase 1, natural language search, what key features does that come with? One of the main ones, of course, is natural language processing for intuitive interactions. Real-time response. Copilot provides instant responses to your queries, ensuring efficient workflow and decision-making. Have a question? Just ask. The answer will be right there. Contextual understanding. Copilot interprets the simulation results within the context of your project and offers tailored recommendations and insights. An interactive interface. You can engage with Copilot, making it easy to seek assistance, clarify doubts. It's not just used within the realm of your power system projects. You can ask normal questions. You can use it the way you normally would in an external interface through ChatGPT, for example. Customizable settings. You might want different fonts. You might want different look and feel regarding how your Copilot interacts with you within ETAP. Well, you can change that. You have customizable user-defined settings available to you. And ultimately, what we're obviously all here for is the integration with ETAP modules. And we have specific modules that we integrate with today, which we'll cover. And then we're going to continue to expand that capability. So Copilot has the ability to learn and be able to assess and analyze results from many different result databases, output reports, analyzers, so on and so on. If you consider our history, we're always implementing features on how to save time and improve your ETAP experience. Starting with ETAP overall, providing output reports with our solutions, results on the one-line diagram, going from output reports to result analyzers, allowing one-click comparisons to look for worst case, maximum conditions, minimum conditions, average conditions. And then now, with AI Copilot, you can ask the question of the result you want to extract. So you went from having to compare multiple reports manually to a result analyzer. And now within that result analyzer, instead of looking for the specific line item that you need, you can ask for it. So we're always increasing productivity and efficiency. And this is just another example of ETAP leading the effort in that direction for power system projects. Ultimately enhancing decision-making, reducing errors, obviously, instead of looking at it and trying to read and write it down separately. Now you have it extracted for you and you can focus on that one specific result that's shown in the Copilot editor. And this enables streamlined workflows. Instead of having to run a report and look and then go back to your software and run an analysis to do that process over and incrementally over and over again, now you get to ask the question on the side and make the changes according to the results. Streamlines the way you interact with multiple iterations of a scenario. This is always ultimately just improving your overall experience using ETAP. Now, again, this is one phase. This is one aspect. This is a beta release. You may run into different situations and you may be in modules that aren't available at this time. But today we'll look at many different use cases that are implemented within our solution today. I'm sure we're at the point where the anticipation is waiting and waiting. The anticipation is high from everybody here listening on this webinar. I'm sure you're waiting for me to get to that next step and show you ETAP Copilot in action. And we will get there. It's coming. We will get there. First, a couple things. Many of us are probably already asking, what about security? Is this safe? Is this secure? Common concern, appropriate concern in our new way of working. Now, this is completely safe, completely secure. It's local knowledge only. We're not sending any information to OpenAI. We're not sending project information to any third party. This GPT connection only learns about your project within your local environment. Nothing is being sent, nothing is being publicized. Your information is safe within this environment. Since it is local and it is learning off your database, the questions are not endless. They're not open. This isn't equivalent to a ChatGPT. This is only a local instance learning from your project. So this is governed by the rules that we teach it on how it correlates to ETAP. And we've done this for security and safety measures. So as another point of emphasis, to emphasize one more time, your information is not going to OpenAI. It is not being sent externally. This is all happening locally, which again, the benefit is safety. But then we all have to realize that the conversations are not open and ended as it would be in a chat GPT. You do need an OpenAI key to utilize this. If you see on the screen here, I ask what is balanced load flow. You have access to ETAP Copilot with ETAP 2024. However, when you try to ask a question, if you have not implemented your OpenAI API key, you will be prompted to do so. You can do that from the settings menu. You see here the gear within our ETAP Copilot interface. You add your key and then you're off and running and able to get started. So getting started, what we can see, I have some sample use cases here we're going to display when I go to ETAP directly in a minute. Let's look at some of the examples that I have listed out for you. I'm going to do this during this webinar, but of course, if you're watching this in the future as a recording, please go ahead and try to utilize some of these same cases, get familiar with Copilot, get comfortable utilizing it in your projects, especially when we go into our full release in the next upcoming releases of ETAP. Some quick examples, what we query on a frequent basis. If you're working on a low voltage project, you might query list equipment below 1 kV. Similarly, if you're working on a medium or high voltage project, you might query list all the equipment above 15 kV. Let's say you have special arc flash solutions at 15 kV and above, and you want to see the equipment which are included in that scenario. You can simply query your Copilot to show you the equipment which would be included. Maybe you want to show all de-energized equipment. You're looking at maintenance, you want to see what's out. You want to look at the one line determined based on switching configuration, breaker configuration, different statuses of equipment. You want to show any equipment that's de-energized in your project, you can simply ask. You want to know what the longest cable is and what's the length of that long cable. So we're looking at input data from this perspective. Now, some of the modules that are a part of phase 1 and included, we have load flow. We have many of the different load flow engines, load flow, unbalanced load flow, so on, and others. We have fault management and service restoration. So we do have different fault-based systems. First one is fault management and service restoration. And we also have optimization engines such as VoltVar optimization connected. So I've selected a study that many of us here use on an everyday basis, like load flow. Another solution that's used by many of our customers for optimization, which is VoltVar optimization, which we'll discuss here shortly. And for people who manage faults and want ETAP to determine the best way to restore faults for customer uptime, that we also have fault management and service restoration. What are some of the questions we may ask on that? Is you can ask simply for load flow, list IDs of 10 branch devices with the largest losses. You simply want to see from a large project your top 10 branches with the largest losses. Maybe you want to do summations. If you want to do some calculations, you can ask, show me the sum of all the branch losses in kilowatts, and it will respond, as we'll shortly see. Or list the devices with critical alerts. Now, in some cases, we have an editor that has alerts that are critical and warnings that is automatically displayed, but maybe you want to just ask the question quickly without having to pop the editor. Some examples that we have, not limited to, not the most important, just some examples that I've brought forth here on this webinar. For fault management and service restoration, you can ask, name the fault location and type. We'll go through that together. What type of isolating device could be used to isolate the fault? Now, some of the questions do not have to be directly correlated to your project. Some could be learning. They can be educational in nature. They could be curiosity based. In these conditions, we can simply ask generic questions and get the education from our ETAP Copilot. And then ultimately, we can do additional assessment, like what is the total load lost after a restoration? So ETAP has given me the best way to restore my customers. If I'm a utility and I want to restore customers, ETAP's giving me the best way to do that from an outage. But what's the load loss even after that restoration? Give me that response. And if I'm optimizing the system, for anyone who doesn't know what VoltVar optimization is, we can look at it and say, this is new to me. What is conservation voltage reduction in a VoltVar optimization study? We can ask those generic questions, which I will do, so you will see soon how it responds. What is the total improvement in megawatt loss? How am I improving? What did ETAP recommend? And what was the improvement overall? Or name that feeder with the highest CVR factor. Give me the one that was impacted the most so we can implement this, because at this feeder, we will have the most significant change in terms of energy efficiency evaluation. Now, having said that, here's a list you can try. We can go through some together, which I will do here. For anybody who did not watch our previously released webinar, it was on the ETAP 2024 ribbon bar. This is the new look and feel of ETAP with ETAP 2024. I highly recommend you watch that webinar to get familiar with this interface. And for those of you that have, you're probably familiar with this new look and feel. So let's continue. Essentially, to access our Copilot, you go into the Tools menu. You'll see here we have ETAP Copilot, and we can activate that. You can see in my previous references of using this project, I was trying to be polite and said, "Hi, how are you?" Unfortunately, this is an AI chatbot, and as it's explicitly told me, I do not have emotions. So I'll save the common conversation for my friends and family at another date. But for this Copilot, without emotional responses, let's go into our project inquiries. And before we ask specific questions, historical artificial intelligence allowed ETAP to simulate power flows you see on this animation when running a load flow. So we simulate and animate the directions of the flows, as well as looking at the speed of a wind turbine generator and seeing its rotation as you would on a freeway when you drive by a wind farm. So there has been some form of artificial intelligence that we've implemented in the past, but we are going to focus on the ETAP Copilot for today. So instead of speaking with pleasantries, let's get into some technical topics. As we said before, if I ask for a list of equipment and I don't have to be grammatically correct, below 1 kV, then it processes my information, looks at the database, and then gives me my results. And then I see a list of equipment IDs that are all below 1 kV. And then very friendly, it tells me, "Thank you for asking." And it tells you the report from which it collected that information. Now we can ask additional number of questions, and let's say we want to clear this editor. We can simply hit the X button here, and it clears and starts a fresh screen for you to ask new questions. Now the next question I'm going to ask is from a results perspective from load flow studies. And I'm not going to be grammatically correct. I'm just going to quickly write 10 highest branch losses, elements, IDs, and see if it understands me. Let's check. Not the clearest statement, but just to check if it understands that I'm asking for the 10 branch IDs with the largest losses. So we see a list. It also provides a disclaimer saying ETAP protects your documents and content through responsible practices. Please double check my responses and sources, as they may not always be precise and accurate. So we do have this disclaimer, but let's double check. We asked for 10 highest branch losses. We didn't do it in a clear, concise fashion. We just did it as quickly as possible. But let's double check Copilot's work. We can go to the load flow result analyzer. I'm going to look for branches, losses. In the report, let's extract blanks so I don't have to see that. We'll filter it from largest to smallest, and I see here line 2 and 3 are the same. Line 2 and 3, T7, T22, cable 14, cable 12, wind turbine generator, transformer P, line 4. So it's spot on. Essentially, this was extremely accurate. I wrote it in a quick fashion. I double checked against the result analyzer. You can quickly see the devices. So now if you need to hit Control F, search for one, you can quickly find it and then do some additional analysis and work before moving on. So it's super easy to make this a part of your stream and work. You can go right to it and continue working as needed. So this is the type of efficiency that we're bringing forth. This example is a list. This list we could have got from a result analyzer. But historically, if we wanted to sum up information or do calculations, we would have done that in Excel. I can simply now say, Copilot, give me the sum of all the branch losses in kilowatt. And we can quickly identify the summations and many other information that you can query and ask about. So now I have a sum. Sum of all branch losses is 987. So we get summations here directly without having to go to any third party or do it manually or pull out your phone or your calculator. This quick math can be done simply using ETAP Copilot. And let's ask one more question for load flow before we move on to other studies. List equipment with over 100%. List equipment with over 100% voltage in tabular form. So we are specific about how we want the results formatted, and essentially it will look through the results, give me the equipment and the voltage level in tabular form. And then we can simply click copy to clipboard so we can copy and paste this information and utilize it in other documents, Word docs, Excel sheets, PowerPoint, so on and so forth. So let's see what else we have in some of our other solutions within ETAP and how to utilize ETAP Copilot. Now I've decided there's too much losses. I'm looking at my project and I do not want to manually try to fix these losses and go through different scenarios to improve the system. I'm going to go to an optimal network solution. So we'll go in optimal network. I'm going to go to volt var optimization to improve these losses. But many of you here, let's say we're not familiar with volt var optimization. Someone's told us about it. I'm now in this study case. I see I want to optimize and perform peak shaving using conservation voltage reduction. But this is new to me. I don't truly know what that is. Let's find out. I will ask my Copilot, what is conservation voltage reduction in volt var optimization studies? So now Copilot isn't assessing information in the product, it's answering a general question for my education. And it tells me that conservative voltage reduction is a method used in volt var optimization studies to reduce energy consumption and improve power quality. It gives me the rest of the definition, and that's true. So volt var optimization finds the optimum settings of voltage in VAR control devices, including LTCs, voltage regulators, switch capacitors, smart inverters, in a distribution system, and it considers objectives and constraints. The main objective of volt var optimization really is to make this distribution system run more efficiently by decreasing power loss to reduce costs and reduce peak demand, or as it states, conservation of volt reduction. So now I'm in and I understand what this is and I plan to use it and I want to improve power loss. I simply run the study as we do for many other solutions, and I can simply ask the question, name the feeder with the highest CVR factor. And it will tell me, based on the improvements that it's suggested, that ETAP has suggested from the voltage controlled devices, it's going to tell me the biggest with the largest contribution is the feeder of CB2 coming through circuit breaker 2. So in this quick example, we can quickly see which feeder has the largest factor. If I want to analyze that further, of course, I can go into the results of the study. I can quickly look up CB2 to find out where it is using Control F. I can identify the location, and then I can do more in-depth analysis if I so choose. To evaluate this in more detail, we can open the System Manager. I have the option to pin it and keep it locked. I can see the results in more detail. Now, this is quite a small project to run a volt var optimization study, but you can imagine if this list was extensive on a large-scale distribution system, instead of manually trying to find the feeder with the largest improvement, asking ETAP Copilot off to the side identifies it much quicker, and then I can go isolate and identify that location specifically. So again, these two can work together. They can both be pinned, they can both be hidden. You have user-defined options to keep them pinned or to auto hide it and to collapse it. Same with ETAP Copilot. I have that opportunity as well. I can pin it open as we had before. I can close it completely and bring it back from a different option. Also have the ability to float it. So right now it's docked. I can float it. I can hide it using this menu as well. Other additional user-defined options that we have is we talked about clearing the questions. We can copy to clipboard and some additional font options that I will go through after our next scenario. We have performed some load flow examples. We performed some optimization examples from the optimal network group. Let's go into the optimal switching group and run a fault management and service restoration simulation and perform some ETAP Copilot queries using that capability. At this point, we'll perform the simulation for fault management, and then we will restore the fault and have ETAP recommend which breakers to open and close to isolate the fault first and then restore the fault second. And the question we can ask is name, fault, location, and type. Now I can check this in the study case, but as opposed to opening the study case from the editor, I have this here and I can quickly type out the question. It'll give me my results, letting me know that the fault location is at T23 and the fault type is a 3-phase fault. And then from there, I want to understand the impact the restoration process had. So I can simply ask, what is the total load lost after restoration? Now again, this is one option. I can also go into the system manager and view my response in the FMSR viewer. I can see some of the details of the actions in the restoration process and then the summary, but also in communication with my Copilot, I provide a quick response, immediate response to the question I have specifically, telling me that the total load lost in kilowatt is 533. So you see that here as well, verified to be correct from ETAP Copilot. And before we conclude, we talked about one feature previously as the font adjustment. So I can quickly increase the font, decrease the font, or be much more specific and set a different font type and a font size through the editor. You have various options to adjust the font to your preference. That's what we have for you. It was very exciting for me to show you the features within this Copilot solution. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. At the time of ETAP 2024, this first release is a beta version. So we did come out with the key features correlating to natural language search. Once you download ETAP 2024, activate Copilot and use it for your projects. Thank you for watching.